Good evening and welcome to San Francisco Playhouse. My name is Mary Claire Erdenast. I am the Associate Artistic Director at San Francisco Playhouse. If we have met already, nice to see you again. And if we haven't, I'm looking forward to getting to know you better, especially from inside your own home. I'm so excited to welcome you back to our Zoomlet series. The Zoomlets were a candle in the dark for me last year when there was no live theater. And I'm hoping that they can continue to light our way even with live theater back in person. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that San Francisco Playhouse stands on the land of the Ohlone people. We want to recognize the history of the land, but also that the Ohlone people are alive and flourishing members of the Bay Area communities. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and learn on their land. For those of you who aren't new to Zoomlets, let me tell you a little bit about them. They are short 10 to 15-minute plays, but they are director-driven. So as the Associate Artistic Director, I collaborated with Bill English, our Artistic Director, on picking plays and picking directors for our Zoomlets. Then it's up for the director to cast the plays. Tonight's a little bit unique because I'm functioning as both the Associate Artistic Director by picking the plays and as the director of Blue. But it is the director's role to talk to the playwright a little bit about the play and talk about the meaning of the play and what exactly is going on. In a full production of the play, the director would also pick designers and they would put on an entire production together. Tonight's Zoomlet is an example of what a first rehearsal of a play might look like. The director, the playwright, and the actors gather around a table and read through the script for the very first time together. And then everyone might talk about what they noticed, what they heard out loud for the first time, and a conversation that will inform the next rehearsal of the play. So tonight's Zoomlet is a play called Blue by Caridad Svich, and directed by Mary Claire Erdenast. So I'm going to introduce Caridad and switch into my director hat. Caridad, would you come out?
I am here. Hello.
Hi.
Hello there.
It's so lovely to see you. I worked for many who might not know in the audience. I directed a play this summer of Caridad's called Red Bike. And I didn't get to see her. And so this is the first time we're actually really meeting face to face.
We are here. We are here.
Can you tell us a little bit about where Blue came from for you?
Sure. Blue, I wanted to write a play about a swimmer. I'm interested in marathon swimming, and I thought it'd be exciting to frame a play around that idea. And beyond that, I sort of wasn't sure what else. I mean, I knew that there were ideas around migration that I wanted to touch on. And there was also, I think I was coming off, I mean, the play was written last year, and coming off of a series of a lot of other plays that I've been writing, and particularly looking at sort of a strand of work that I've been building since I wrote Red Bike. So, and this piece feels like it's in somewhat of a conversation with Red Bike. Red Bike is not about a swimmer. It's about somebody pedaling a bike on the most prosaic level. That's what it's about. And I thought, oh, something in the water, So I was sort of interested in the idea of what happens when you sort of work with waterturgy, which I have a lot of other plays that are reference the water, the Orphan Sea, and Life Jacket, and any number of plays. And so it is part of my consciousness as a writer. And I thought, oh, this might be, and I also thought it might be fun. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to give myself a fun challenge and to write something and kind of let off some steam. And Blue sort of emerged from that. So
yeah, it certainly feels challenging staging wise. If I think about it in like live person, how do you tell the story of someone swimming across the English Channel and not talking to anyone in particular, talking to themselves, but like talking to the audience selves, talking to like the ocean. So it's certainly an interesting staging challenge, which we won't really get into tonight, but a little bit. I mean, it's the movement of it is so fun. You use the word migration, which is a big like buzzword for me. I have a mentor who has an exercise called a migration. And so I've spent years kind of studying point A to point B. And I think that's really both red bike and blue really feel like they are in migration. And the movement of them feels so interesting because of that. They're changing with the characters in them are moving with their movement, that they are developing by moving.
Yeah, molecules, right? Theater is about the changing molecules in the room. So I think of that with text. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so interested. I'm going to invite out Michelle, who is our actor for this evening. So Michelle, would you join us? Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, so good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. I'm so excited. This play is so beautiful, Caridad. So I'm really excited.
Yay, super fun.
Michelle, do you have any thoughts or questions before we talk about the play and maybe do a reading of it?
I will later, I think.
Okay. I'm excited for your surprise questions. I think just as an idea, as we go into it and do an initial read, I think that there's a really unique rhythm to this play, especially because it is at least I have imagined it as a one-person play. Caridad, maybe you can speak to other iterations where it's not been a one-person play, but I hear it as a one-person play. And so it's, just remembering who you're talking to in this moment and who I think that this play, just because there isn't a physical scene partner in the same way that many other plays have, to focus on your relationship to yourself, and who you're talking to in the self that is working through what you're working through. And also, I think your other scene partner is your water. Yeah. Is the blue.
Mm-hmm. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is there anything about this moment in the swim itself? Like, is this something after? Because I feel, and it's something that we've touched on before about endurance training or anything like a marathon, that there's something that happens or our mind goes after, it's different, like if it's 2 miles as opposed to 20 miles or so curious.
Yeah, I mean, now that you ask me, it feels like, so there's, for the audience who doesn't have a script in front of them, there are punctuation marks, which are the only punctuation marks in the script, which are like asterisks.
Yep.
And it makes me think that the length of the swim, especially because in the beginning we talk about the length of the swim, that we're maybe seeing more of the arc of the swim. We're seeing the arc of the meditation and the thought of like the story of the swim in this piece, that it's not just what happens in linear time.
Yeah, because in the beginning it says something like it's been minutes, even though it may feel like hours, and then it develops, like the play develops, where it seems as if so much time has passed. So
yeah, and so it makes me think that maybe in the beginning when it says it's minutes, but it feels like hours, by the end of the play, it's been hours, but it's been minutes.
Got it.
So let's dive into it. I will turn off my camera, and Caridad can also turn off her camera, and we'll just have Michelle in the water. And I will start it with the title of the play, and then Michelle, whenever you feel ready to start, you may start. Blue, a play by Caridad Svich.
In the water. Blue, they say it is, but it's really not. It's the reflection, the way it's seen. Water is deceptive. You know, you're in it. Stroke, stroke. It's been minutes, feels like hours. Soon it will be hours more. 54, to be precise. But you're not counting. Not yet. Right now, it's early. The sun's out. You believe anything is possible. Because it is. They call you champ. You're swimming across the channel. It's 21 miles. The water is cold. Breath of days are behind you. You're thinking of things you haven't done. Dishes, for one. They're still in the sink. And with them a glass of whiskey you left behind, not a full glass. Just a bit. Memory of its sharpness still on your tongue. So much left undone. This is you not speaking. This is you not dreaming. This is you not feeling the smart of the cold water on your skin. This is you not doing the not doing of all things, because you would rather be doing this. Stroke, stroke. Water plunges down your back. You arch, you bend. You're a civil disobedient. You're good at it. You don't want to think about authority. It seems someone is always wanting to author someone else's life, making rules for being. Stroke, stroke. Let the ocean guide you. In the before days, way before this, your people came by ocean across several seas. They spoke many tongues and held promises in their hearts. Better days were always ahead, even when rough shores greeted them. Your people had courage. It takes mountains of strength to cross an ocean and several languages, to make it somewhere else. And what did they make? They made love. They made a family. They rented an apartment. They worked in factories and stores and hospitals and schools, and got paid little for doing much. They worked their entire lives, and when they retired, they counted their coins. Because even after working their entire lives, they did not have enough to live on with any degree of comfort. All that work, and what was left of it? Bad knees, upset stomachs, strange aches, rough sleep. And hope, too, that those next in line, the children, the ones like you, would get it right. Because their crossing was the first stage of suffering. Their crossing was the first stage of suffering. So that you would never have to suffer at all. And what did you make? You made love. You did not make a family, or at least not the blood kind. You rented apartments you couldn't pay, worked in stores and schools and offices, and counted your coins at the end of each day, worried sick about retirement and what you were going to live on in the future. You didn't even get to cross. You were stuck on land, the land where your people brought you, and some days all you wanted to do was leave. Stroke, stroke. Your swim coach thinks you're reckless. You shouldn't be doing this, champ, they say. You're past your prime as a swimmer. Being a channel swimmer is a young athlete's game. You don't listen to them. You love open water more than anything. Because you're here. You're just here. And it's just you and water, and you're telling each other your secrets. Even when jellyfish want to sting, shake them off. Send them elsewhere. Jellyfish are tricksters. They always want to mess with you. Their tentacles want to dig in even when they're dead. You can't let them. Because if you do, they'll do their best to sink you. One bite, and you're down, way down deep, lost in sleep. You've been there once, in the way down. You saw a whole city and all its buildings buried at the bottom of everything. A lost world. You wonder if the people that lived there once thought that they were invincible, just like us. Stroke, stroke. Oh, the smell of the sun surrounds you. It's not a joke. The sun has a smell. And so does the water, and so do the plants, and so does the air. Even the jellyfish have a smell, and you hate them. The earth's a wonder. Amazing, the most of us don't live in it. Most of us barely float through, ignoring all the signs, not even listening to anything, except when there are fires. When it's all ablaze, you stop and look and wonder where you fit into everything. Like that last time. Wait, was it that last time? Fire swept through everything. 1 billion animals died. Do you remember? It was a tragedy. It was the end of the world. Everyone said so. Because in that moment when all the animals died and the birds burned to a crisp and only the reptiles were left hiding in the soil, you couldn't imagine that more days were to come. More days that would be worse than the days of fire. And better days too, though they would be slow to come by. You even cried. And then many days later, you stopped and forgot all about the animals, not even wondered what had happened to their dead carcasses. You just carried on, thinking about coffee and cereal and the pain in your life. Stroke, stroke. The last time you were in hospital, you felt something like this, pain down your arms. They called it a mini stroke. You said, like swimming? Like in a kiddie pool? They didn't laugh. Docs don't tend to laugh. You get it. It's crap most of the time. Constant illness, constant anxiety, waves of panic. But surely a laugh can do some good. Doc said, a mini stroke is a sign. You need to watch yourself. You were like, in a mirror? No laugh. Doc said, maybe you should stop swimming. Swimming is what you do. It's your heartbeat. It's what keeps you sane. It's what gotten you through everything. Without it, you wouldn't know who you were. Truly. When you do marathons, you aim for the finish, or what some people call catastrophe, even if it's days ahead. This is your 4th time across the channel. 4th time covering your skin in goose fat. 4th time not knowing if you'll make it through. You dream about the rocky beach awaiting you. You dream of the cold white sand burning your feet. You ache in the pre-ache of the massive fatigue that you know will overcome you when you stumble out of the water. And remember, you're alive.
Thank you. I think I have video on. I don't really know. I do. Thank you, Michelle.
I know that kind of took me a little by surprise. A little, the emotional quality took me like by
Yeah. Caridad, you're welcome to join it if you want. The part that really stood out for me was swimming's what you do.
Yeah.
That's you. You're alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think especially after, I mean, for this character who is being told that, or just aging, right? The thing that you love, and then, the advice is that you should stop the thing that you love. Yeah.
The like center of her being alive. How could she? She can't, which is why she's still swimming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes, and you remember you're alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was so beautiful.
Oh.
What else did you notice while you were going through it?
It is interesting. I think that the mention of I think, I don't remember if this was before we came on screen, about migration and then just the movement of things, but it also made me think about, I mean, the physical movement of moving forward in this swim, but then when it really hit talking about ancestry, about who came before you and what they did and what they made, things that they made, and then what you make, and what you make of your life was interesting, and that really stood out in this time for me.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a meditation on what you make of your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And being in the water is kind of like that place of discovery, that place of tapping into life and nature and the soul of who she is and what she must do to be alive and what makes her feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of ecstasy of it in the extremeness. Like she's not in just a pool.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She's in danger the whole time. And so that was a just something I thought, ooh, let's keep track of that in if when we get to it again, is that this is like dangerous
Yeah.
the whole time. There may be a jellyfish, there may be a boat, you may get a cramp. Like there is, and it's a marathon that if you stop running a marathon, you can just like sit down. You can't stop swimming.
Yeah.
You must. And so you have to, I think, let's keep a forward momentum with the actions of the piece and of the language, because it has to keep going.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's imminent danger at all times. Yeah. And then another thing that I noticed is just interpretation of the play, because we leave it up to the words on the page. And there's a moment in it that I was like, oh, I think that's silent, but you read it. And so I was like, okay, that is absolutely a way to do it. There's a moment, there's like italicized on the
Oh yeah, that
and
one.
it says, this is not you speaking. And so
Yeah,
I assumed like, this is not you speaking. And so to hear it out loud it was like this echo effect of like, when you're like seeing out of your eyes, but you're also seeing yourself like from up here.
Yep.
And you're like watching yourself. It kind of had that element to it where it was like, it was the one watching you saying that.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's similar how I took that, because I wasn't sure if I should read that or not, but there was such a poetic element to just that itself. So I was like, well, what would it be if I did read it? And and for me, it is like that. But I think I was telling myself it's that secondary self. It's that other side. Like you have, you know, you talking to yourself, and then there's always this other voice or this other thing that either counters it or agrees with it every now and then, especially when you're
Yeah.
so alone and you're by yourself. Um and um it could be the voice of like the ocean, or it can be the voice of something else. And so that's where I was trying to place it to make it
Yeah.
mean something or make some sense for me.
I mean, I think this play is also that. It's like the you swimming, talking to the you who went through traumas of life. And it's like a dialogue in a way of like you coming back to process like the fires and the mini stroke, and there's kind of like a dialogue of self. And so maybe it's kind of got that to it too. Like the whole play is kind of like talking to yourself, the way that we talk to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
both out loud and in our heads.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Like when a thought comes into your head, and how do you navigate that thought, right? Like something pops in your head, and you either it's very surface or internally surface. Does that make sense? But do
Yeah.
where like you're like, what, yeah, I did pick up milk to bring home, or right, like something that's just so immediate, or it's something where you're like, what is that thought? And you just kind of die, like you spiral in that thought, and you kind of like you lose yourself in the thought.
And then you lose yourself in the thought of the thought.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. That feels so true. That this piece is in the thought of the thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like now. in that pause, in the pause.
Exactly what it is, in the thought of the thought of the thought. Was there anything that you discovered in the piece going through it this time?
What was helpful was this physical motion. I think was a great, for me, just the physicality of it, and that launched into the next thought was a new thing, where, because I didn't have, when I read it the first time, like on my own, I didn't have a lot of physical, like I thought of physicality of what it's like to just be in the water, but moving forward as if like I'm, or thinking about, because it's something, I think when I first thought about it, and I was like, oh, if Mary Claire doesn't say anything about a physicality, what would I do? And I thought of just doing this every time I would say stroke or something. But this action of pushing forward was something a little different, and so that, I think that, changed whatever followed right after, energy wise.
For sure. The forward momentum, it definitely felt like it picked up. And I want to work on the movement of this. I'm a movement person.
Yeah.
And it has so much movement to it, but it's not like, what is the word I'm looking for? It's not realism movement. And so that makes it so fun, because the texture of the movement that we get to do can be, you can't do this play in its realism setting. Like, I mean, you could. That'd be a trip if you were if we were on like the boat following you. Like, I don't know how that would work. But in the assumption that you're on the stage, like, you can't swim. And so what becomes our language for swimming? And like, this is a nice like Zoom shortcut, but I would be so interested in working on like, what is swimming when it's not swimming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also, thinking about this as potentially a piece of dance theater, so there is movement, but maybe the text is overlaid, or it's happening. Somebody else is voicing the text on a mic, but while we're watching a body in movement, or
Yeah.
there's video, or you know what I mean. I think that it's. I'm interested in stuff that layers. And because the piece is built around layers of memory and action, thought and present thought, past thought and present thought, if we want to call it that for a second. Yeah, I mean, I think that then the stage space can reflect that as well.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it until you just said it now, but I just did a puppet show where it was there was a wooden puppet that I was manipulating with this one person, and it was live, but there was also a shadow puppet, and the shadow puppet would be of the same puppet, and also they would interact sometimes. And so it's like, I would love to see a performer and a shadow puppet, and like the jellies and the like,
right.
Yeah.
It'd be so much fun. Oh,
cool.
Now I'm thinking about the puppet world.
Puppets.
Puppets. So I think maybe we want to do it again.
Yeah.
And thoughts going into it would be to keep in the back of your mind that it is super dangerous, and then you have to keep swimming because you'll drown otherwise. And so keeping the forward momentum of being, it has like both sharp focus and soft focus, that you have to continue going forward with it, and that the energy continues to build until there's like the realization on the last line that it just keeps going, and it keeps going forward. You keep swimming. And then why don't we give it another go and see what else comes out?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video.
Likewise.
And then get to I think it's still in order. Okay. Blue, a play by Caridad Svich.
Blue. They say it is, but it's really not. It's the reflection, the way it's seen. Water is deceptive. You know you're in it. Stroke, stroke. It's been minutes. Feels like hours. Soon it will be hours more. 54 to be precise. But you're not counting. Not yet. Right now it's early. The sun's out. And you believe anything is possible because it is. They call you champ. You're swimming across the channel. It's 21 miles. The water is cold. Breath of days are behind you. You're thinking of things that you haven't done. Dishes, for one, they're still in the sink. And with them, a glass of whiskey you left behind. Not a full glass, just a bit. Memory of its sharpness still on your tongue. So much left undone. This is you not speaking. This is you not dreaming. This is you not feeling the smart of the cold water on your skin. This is you not doing the not doing of all things. Because you would rather be doing this. Stroke. Stroke. Water plunges down your back. You arch, you bend. You are a civil disobedient. Good at it. You don't want to think about authority. It seems someone is always wanting to author someone else's life, making rules for being. Stroke. Stroke. Let the ocean guide you. In the before days, way before this, your people came by ocean, across several seas. They spoke many tongues and held promises in their hearts. Better days were always ahead, even when rough shores greeted them. Your people had courage. It takes mountains of strength to cross an ocean and several languages to make it somewhere else. And what did they make? They made love. They made a family. They rented an apartment. They worked in factories and stores and hospitals and schools and got paid little for doing much. They worked their entire lives, and when they retired, they counted their coins. Because even after working their entire lives, they did not have enough to live on with any degree of comfort. All that work, and what was left of it? Bad knees, upset stomachs, strange aches, rough sleep. And hope, too, that those next in line, the children, the ones like you, get it right. Because their crossing was the first stage of suffering. Their crossing was the first stage of suffering. So that you would never have to suffer at all. What did you make? You made love. You did not make a family, or at least not the blood kind. You rented apartments you couldn't pay, worked in stores and schools and offices, and counted your coins at the end of each day. Worried sick about retirement and what you were going to live on in the future. You didn't even get to cross. You were stuck on land, the land where your people brought you, and some days all you wanted to do was leave. Stroke, stroke. Your swim coach thinks you're reckless. You shouldn't be doing this, champ, they say. You're past your prime as a swimmer. Being a channel swimmer is a young athlete's game. You don't listen to them. You love open water more than anything. But when you're here, you're just here, and it's just you and the water. And you're telling each other your secrets. Even when jellyfish want to sting, shake them off, send them elsewhere. Jellyfish are tricksters. They always want to mess with you. Tentacles want to dig in even when they're dead. You can't let them. Because if you do, they'll do their best to sink you. One bite and you're down, way down deep. Lost in sleep. You've been there. Once. In the way down. You saw a whole city and all its buildings. Buried at the bottom of everything. A lost world. You wonder if the people that lived there once thought that they were invincible. Just like us. Stroke. Stroke. The smell of the sun surrounds you. It's not a joke. The sun has a smell. So does the water, and so do the plants, and so does the air. And even the jellyfish have a smell, and you hate them. The earth's a wonder. Amazing that most of us don't live in it. Most of us barely float through, ignoring all the signs, not even listening to anything. Except when there are fires. When it's all ablaze, you stop and look and wonder where you fit into everything. Like the last time. Wait, was it the last time? The fire swept through everything. 1 billion animals died. Do you remember? It was a tragedy. It was the end of the world. Everyone said so. Because in that moment when all the animals died and the birds burned to a crisp and only the reptiles were left hiding in the soil, you couldn't imagine that more days were to come. More days that would be worse than the days of fire. And better days too, though they would be slow to come by. You even cried. And then many days later you stopped and forgot all about the animals and never even wondered what had happened to their dead carcasses. You just carried on, thinking about coffee and cereal and the pain in your life. Stroke, stroke. The last time you were in hospital, you felt something like this. Pain down your arms. They called it a mini stroke. You said like swimming, like in a kiddie pool. They didn't laugh. Docs don't tend to laugh. You get it. It's crap most of the time. Constant illness, constant anxiety, waves of panic. But surely a laugh can do some good. Doc said, a mini stroke is a sign. You need to watch yourself. You were like, in a mirror? Like a mirror? No laugh. Doc said, maybe you should stop swimming. Swimming is what you do. It's your heartbeat. It's what keeps you sane. It's what's gotten you through everything. Without it, you wouldn't know who you were. Truly. When you do marathons, you aim for the finish, or what some people call catastrophe, even if it's days ahead. And this is your 4th time across the channel. 4th time covering your skin in goose fat. 4th time not knowing if you'll make it through. You dream about the rocky beach awaiting you. You dream of the cold white sand burning your feet. And you ache in the pre-ache of the massive fatigue that you know will overcome you when you stumble out of the water and remember you're alive.
Just gathering myself. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something that I noticed this time, that the doctor said maybe you should stop swimming, sounded like maybe you should stop living.
Yeah.
And he's trying to protect you, but what is protecting life if you don't live?
Yeah.
And that you want to protect yourself from the fires and the strokes and the heartaches and being down in the city below the world, but that's kind of part of living.
Yeah.
That you can't protect yourself, or if you do, you stop living.
Yeah.
That if you stop swimming, you stop living. Doing it is what you're supposed to do. And
I know
her
what you mean.
bravery.
Huh?
Her bravery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's her bravery, and I mean, it's about what's the most important. I mean, I think we I don't know. I know I think about that. Like, I have a birthday coming up, and I'll be, I'm not shy. I'll be 52, but of course I'm thinking about like just aging and the things that um, sometimes I feel like I can't do, but I'm grappling with that inside of me of like, no, that's not true. Like, you should be able to do that. You're still, like I'm at that point where there's so many things that are going on, like just, of course, aging wise, like physically, and then trying to battle that, right? Saying, no, 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 that's not it. And it's what I really enjoyed, Caridad, was the joke part of it in talking to the
Yeah.
doctor about it, because it shouldn't, for somebody who's like who's saying like no to it all, like no, that's I have to do this. You have to like finding that lightness of it instead of, because you can easily get pulled into that, into like, and that will affect you physically, or just say, oh yeah, you're right, since you told me I shouldn't do it, I won't do it. And that already, you end up going down this kind of decline about it all.
Right.
So I love how you put in this kind of like this, a way to kind of joke about it, or a way to figure out how she can pull herself out of that water.
Yes,
Of
'cause
it.
it's part of surviving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, with humor.
Yeah. You
The
give
humor.
in to despair,
Yeah.
it's gone. You're gone. basically.
Yeah. The humor of the first part really stuck out to me. I was like, wow, this is so much funnier than I remember. That's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
The jellies, and you hate them.
Pain in the ass.
She's getting a kick out of things. But I think that's also just like part of her chutzpah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if like I can't just imagine like being a marathon swimmer or doing anything like that. That you have there has to be these moments of entertainment too, right? It can't just be like I'm doing this and I'm doing like there has to be this like how do you like self entertain, right? And so that is one of the things that kind of occurred to me too of like not necessarily thoughts that just kind of come into the mind, but what are the ones that she just wants to pull in there because to just entertain this action of swimming and for a period of time. Like what do you do? Like what conversations do you have with yourself? And
Yeah, to keep going and to uh, take your mind off the fact of what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that sort of athletes, if you're thinking about, let's say, runners or something, if you're thinking about running, you can't run. You actually can't do the task, weirdly. I mean, a part of your brain is thinking about it, but the task itself, it's like acting. If you're thinking about acting, you can't act. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking about, oh, what am I doing? And what is my motivation? And why am I saying this line this way? It's like you're paralyzed, right? So, in the thought of all of that. So I think like that's why I love talking to actors where it's like they're like, yeah, I was on stage and yeah, I was in the moment, but I was like also thinking about what I'd have for dinner tonight. And I was like, totally true. Like, your body is present and you're kind of reacting and especially if you're doing a long run and, but you're also like, you're like an athlete, right? Especially if you're doing a long run, but even if you're doing a shorter run, you know, the athlete part of you takes care of the physical stuff if you're in shape and if you're ready to do the work. And then your brain can be like, yep, and I'm here for my other actors, and then I'm saying hi to the person backstage, and like I'm just keeping things level. Do you know what I mean? You can't be thinking about like your backstory or any of that because that's no point. All that work's out the window. You know what I mean? You've done all that work in rehearsal.
yeah, like in that comfort, like I mean, as a performer on stage, those are like those moments where you're like, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna do this a little bit different. Like you're able to like separate that, like because like what you were saying, Kari, that like the actor body's taking care of the blocking and all the points
Right.
and all of those moments that you have to hit. But
Yeah.
now you've freed up some space where you can play and you can let your mind go a little bit. And I could see that too, and especially with this idea of channel swimming where your view you might not be able to see anything but water,
Right.
right? And it's
Yeah.
just water, so there's not even any other type of distraction where you have to almost create those moments and the distraction for yourself.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna ask the question Bill asks. That I'm filling in with him, filling in for him, which is like, what would you work on next? If we had another rehearsal tomorrow, Michelle, what would you want to work on?
um because you planted it in my head, moments of the danger and how does that affect the all of the thought process and um, and the tempo, right? The tempo of the movement of the stroke and how that can inform um, like the moments that follow. That's what I would really love to like dive into is that and time, like what, like the exhaustion and what does that mean. Yeah.
Caridad, do you have something that you would want to work on?
Oh, yeah, like creating a physical score, even if it's, even if it's not the one that ends up happening, but creating some sort of physical score that can then be pushed against or played with text can sort of react to. I think could be really, really fun. Um, Almost like there's a company that I admire that have been doing theater for a long time, named Improbable, and one of their an early project that they did was directing. They were brought in to direct A Midsummer Night's Dream, famous play by Shakespeare, if you don't know it. And they had never done a Shakespeare before, so they were kind of terrified because they were all like new. They had all just devised work for like a number of years at that time. They hadn't done anything else besides devising work, and so they were scared, and so they went into the rehearsal process. And what they asked the actors to do was to record, to just record the text. So they just recorded the text. Um, uh, and then on day one, they played the recording of the text and they created a physical score. And to me, that feels like the most ideal process ever. Because what happened is that they just started building a physical score and the language was in the air already. And 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 then slowly over a period of time, that recording, of course, went away, and the actors started saying the text. But actually, by that time, everyone knew the play. Like they had heard it so many times that they all knew the play. And I'm like, that to me sounds like the best process ever.
That sounds like so much fun. I want to try that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna wrap up because we only have 1 hour of rehearsal. I know. I wish we could keep going and we had a whole process and a production and designers, but this is it.
Designers, sound designers, a big sound design show.
I love that.
The sound design show.
Designer I worked on Red Bike with, I love.
Yeah.
It was his first professional sound design, and I loved working with him. So I'm so excited to do something else with him. So next time. But for now, I want to thank everyone in the audience who tuned in tonight. Thank you so much for having, we're so excited to have you back for our Zoomlets. There are 3 more Zoomlets in this fall series. And if you haven't already got your tickets to next week's Zoomlet, it is on Monday, October 11th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is Homeward by Drew Woodson, which is about a late night secret meeting between 2 Shoshone boys at Stewart Indian Boarding School in 1935. I'm really excited about this play, and I hope you can make it too. We're so grateful for everyone who attended, and we're especially grateful for those who made a small donation, because we're paying all of the artists involved with the Zoomlets, and your donations help cover the costs of paying them. So helpful that you could support the Zoomlets the way that you do. And if you haven't donated yet, you'll be receiving a thank you email, and you'll have another opportunity to donate. Also, make sure to get tickets to The Great Con, which is playing at San Francisco Playhouse live, in person, and streaming, October 13th through November 13th. It is about 2 Black teenagers struggling against the system. And then Genghis Khan shows up. So it's going to be really fun and really funny. And I hope that I get to see you there. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
We're clear.